right here about police corruption in Western Australia. Listen in. We have with us here today a member of the WA public and a long-time fan of Stop Funding Israel. His name is John. Can you tell us here today, John, what is your opinion of the justice system in general and the West Australian Police Force in your hometown?
Well, Steve, good question. In short, we've got a dysfunctional justice and police system in this town. If you were looking at this on a social experiment of everything you could probably do to create inequality and oppression with people in a community, this would be a perfect example of it. You'd think a small rural community, only an hour away from the capital of WA, which is a very affluent state in itself, would be a lovely little place. There's only 7,000 people here, yet we have lots of government departments, lots of police, and a court running in overdrive. The town is full of poor people living on benefits that are basically owned by a Centrelink and dependent on their survival for Centrelink. We have a large Indigenous population and all of the problems that they've got as far as trying to deal with police against them, and consequently it's given an excuse for to have a large police force here. The town also has major drug problems in that an ice epidemic that is everywhere. Yet, despite a large police force, the main protagonists in that industry have gone unimpeded in their trade, which begs the question of corruption on that level.
So you're suggesting that the police are actually involved in the distribution of this illegal drug?
Yeah, this isn't just me. This is anecdotal evidence from hundreds of people, and I mean seriously hundreds of people, some connected, some disconnected, but cross-reference the stories. There's smoke, and not all these people can be lying. And you see it on the street. You see the same people doing the same things over and over and over again. And I've had people write down, "Don't worry about it," and I'm freaking thinking, why are you people just so open about it? Don't worry about it. Cops don't touch us. The flip side to it, though, is you've got on one side you've got that happening, and of course with large illicit drug use, you've got the peripheral crimes of breaking and entering and fraud and so on. The flip side of this is that you've got the straight members of the community also complaining that their reports to police of being having stuff stolen from them aren't really followed up, and there's very few convictions according to that. So on one action you've got police encouraging crime, and then completely inactive on the policing of the peripheral crimes. In order to justify their existence, every now and again there is a sweep of low-level drug dealers in the town, and on top of that there is constant harassment of just drivers, people driving cars. They'll be pulled over, their cars will be given default notices, there'll be minor traffic infringements that, although normally someone that is cashed up would be able to defend these claims in court, but however you're looking at a downtrodden populace that doesn't have the means and have been trained into the idea of just plead guilty and we'll deduct the amount out of your dole check. So basically, you've set up a little tax revenue, pseudo tax revenue outfit in Northern, and basically what happens is people that may be working on a low-paid, unskilled job, because there's very little employment here. The amount of farm workers required in a rural population has decreased over the years due to automation. and apart from government jobs, which most of the people on welfare can't get for various reasons, there's very little left, so they might get a truck driving job or a cleaning job or this or that.
Just a question, can you actually validate that you have actually seen police corruption yourself? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, Steve. I've witnessed a couple of things where I've gone, that just is not right. And by corruption...
What are you talking? Just simple breaking the rules, or actual perjury, tampering with evidence, anything like that?
I've experienced and seen firsthand tampering of electronic evidence. I've seen statements by police that are out and out fabrications designed to protect police officers. I've witnessed groups of police grouping themselves together and getting off the road for God knows what reasons. Some strange stuff, and I've had some interesting reports from other parties that are outrageous, that are completely outrageous, yet you get them from 3 or 4 sources and you've got to go, well, there's got to be some sort of truth in this. The police are a law unto themselves in this town.
I've actually heard that this town is a dumping ground for all the corrupt officers that they want to get rid of from other stations. Do you believe there's any truth to that?
Oh yes, there's a well-known officer in this town that has been booted out of a few different towns and has...
Booted out?
Booted out. Literally, the community has booted this person out, and he's had to leave for fear of his own life and his family's life. And then he's landed in Northam, and there's been numerous complaints against the officer, and yet he still ends up back out on the street over and over again. I've seen the complaints that have been attended to the Commissioner, and yet this officer is still here.
We're talking about a commissioner whose own son used to run a meth lab.
Yeah, well, this is true, and there's other evidence here of other police officers whose immediate family and children are involved in the methamphetamine market, getting away with stuff. It's look, whether these coppers are involved or not, it does raise a very, very, very big question that they have to be looked at. These can't just be ignored, and they are ignored, systematically ignored. Then you've got lower levels of corruption of police just being lazy around town, bad driving and speeding and failing to indicate, driving damaged vehicles that otherwise would be yellow stickered off the road. All these little infractions, and
What about the oversight, like the Criminal Corruption Commission? Don't they actually look into this?
Well, you look at the statistics on the Triple C in this state, and that in the period of 2012-2013, out of 400 complaints about police brutality alone that made it to the Triple C desk, only one of those was investigated. And
so there is no oversight.
There is no oversight. There is no oversight. The chain of oversight with police complaints is, firstly, the complaint goes to the station that the officer who's being complained against is in, and they make their submission. Then, once that is investigated in-house, if the complainant isn't satisfied with the investigation, then it is moved up to internal affairs in the West Australian Police first, and then beyond that, then it has to go to the Triple C. We're looking over a period of each year, on average, 4,000 complaints against police in this state, with really none, an event making it to the Triple C.
So basically, only one out of those 4,000 actually finding any investigation should be taking place.
That's it. That's it. Beyond that, that's it. So
we're talking about a whole state of corruption.
Well, we're talking about a state that is calling every complainant an out-and-out liar. That if another really interesting fact is if you look at statistics on crime in this state, it'll list murder, it'll list drug offences, it'll list all the main categories of offences. However, the offences not listed are the three ones that the police use over and over again of obstructing a police officer, resisting arrest, failure to name,
disorderly conduct,
and assault police officer. I think I might have said that. Yet those statistics aren't there. And with the complaints, the majority of the complaints are about police brutality. I've experienced police brutality twice in 12 months in this town.
And a number of times in your life.
Well, I've had it 3 times in my life. Once was...
You don't have to get into specifics.
20 years ago, same sort of scenario, usual scenario. Incidentally, the police officer I was going against was one of the police officers involved in the...
Claremont serial killer.
The Claremont serial killer. So I've had this happen to me a few times.
Well, we'll be back again with part 2 of this interview with more about the corrupt justice system and the corrupt police force in Western Australia. Do tune in, do subscribe, and listen up as we expose the sordid details. But from me for now, this is Steve Johnson saying stay safe, God bless, and of course, ciao for now. Of the justice system in general and the West Australian police force in your hometown.
Well, Steve, good question. In short, we've got a dysfunctional justice and police system in this town. This would be a perfect example of it. You'd think a small rural community, only an hour away from the capital of WA, which is a very affluent...
Western Australia. Listen in. We have with us here today a member of the WA public and a long-time fan of Stop Funding Israel. His name is John. Can you tell us here today, John, what is your opinion? Hey, welcome back. We've got a very interesting interview right here about police corruption.
If you were looking at this on a social experiment, of everything you could probably do to create inequality and oppression with people in a community,